I want to talk about a post I came across on Facebook. So this post says, how long have your parents been married and what did you learn from their union? So I do come from a functional two-parent household, and I think this needs to be discussed. So that's why I'm making this video. So let me know down below in the comments if your parents are married. What did you learn from their union? Here's mine. The first thing I learned from my parents' union is the most important gift you can give to your kids is their other parent. This is one of the main reasons I do not have children. This is another reason why I do not endorse casual sex, because a lot of babies have been created from casual sex, friends with benefits, situations, one night stands, things like that. And because of the type of parents that I have, I said I never wanted to accidentally bring a child into this world because I was involved in reckless behavior. It's not to judge anybody else who was. That's just what works for me. The second thing I learned is that being born from a two-parent household where you get to actually see your parents loving each other, respecting each other, and helping each other, it is a completely different type of confidence booster that can't even be put into words. To look at the people who created you loving each other and to know that you were born from that type of unconditional, like strong love, it's very humbling. It's like I said, you can't even put it into words. The other thing that I learned from my parents' marriage is that parents should be a united front. A married couple should be a united front. So if you have children, ain't no way in hell you should be able to ask your father for something. He say no, and then you go and ask your mother. Because if I was to do that, I would have got my tail tapped, because I knew that they was a united front, and that creates structure and stability in the household. It's also a united front because my parents didn't play the, oh, well, this is my opposite sex friend who liked me, but not you. So it was like, no, they was a unit. If one of them, if you didn't like one of them, then the other one wrote you off. It was just that simple. The other thing that I seen my parents doing, or that I learned from my parents, is that their marriage came first. Their marriage came first before their kids, before their jobs, before their friends, before any external influences. Their marriages came first. They put each other first, and that shit was reciprocated. So that is one of the things that I seen from my parents. That is why I do not deal with anybody's BS or anything like that, because I seen what a functional relationship looks like between a man and a woman, and I will call somebody out on their BS. Another thing I learned from my parents' union is equity. And I consider equity as the way you behave towards your partner before the S hits the fan. Okay, so if your partner was an excellent partner towards you while they were up, then you need to be an excellent partner towards them when they're down. So in other words, do not, like if they held you down, then you don't take a dump on them once you get back on your feet and be like, ha, I'm going to go find somebody better. No, you reciprocate that and you return that, and you respect that. Okay. So that's what I learned, is that one hand washes the other. Like they washed each other's backs. They really had each other's backs. Another thing I learned from my parents' union is it is okay to argue in front of your children. I see a lot of people say they don't argue in front of their children. Children need to see conflict because they need to hear their parents apologizing to each other and having healthy conflict resolution skills. So that's another thing that I learned from my parents, is that it's okay to argue as long as you are respectful to each other, making up, and you have healthy conflict resolution skills that don't involve you going to go stay at your mom's house for 3 days because you mad, or that doesn't involve, like you just giving somebody the quiet treatment because you mad and don't want to talk to them or whatever, or you going off to go do you. Okay, so that's what I learned from my parents' union, is healthy conflict resolution skills. The other thing I learned is that if things are going wrong in your marriage, You don't go and spend a night at somebody else's house. This kind of ties into the last point, but I never seen either one of my parents go and sleep on their parents' couch because they was mad at the other one. They stayed there and they worked it out. So that's what I learned from it. Again, I came from a functional two-parent household. So nobody was being abused. There was no domestic violence or any of that type of mess. There was no manipulation. And just to this into perspective, I lived with my parents until I was 32 years old. So I was well into adulthood to actually study their relationship and their marriage. And I noticed a difference between the way they were when they were younger and learning each other versus as they got older. There were way more arguments when they were younger than when they got older. So they had to kind of still learn each other, feel each other out, things like that. And I got to watch that. The other thing that I learned is keep people out of your business. Like what I know for a fact that if you go around telling your marital business to people, A, that makes you vulnerable to outside forces outside of that marriage. B, some people are trying to see where a crack is in your marriage so that they can sleep with your spouse or sleep with you, or, make you vulnerable and build you up the way your spouse ain't doing. So that's why you have to protect your marriage at all times. The other thing I learned about that is when you tell your friends, your families, when you vent to them about your spouse, they won't forgive your spouse. You'll forgive them, but they won't. So now you're causing a discord within the relationships between your spouse and your friends and your family. So keep your marital business to yourself, because the only way somebody would be in your business anyway is if A, they're looking to be like, see, I told you so, or they trying to sleep with you. That's the only reason people gonna be worried about your marital business. Is nobody's business but you and your spouses. Now, if you just need to talk to somebody, then I would say contact your pastor, contact a therapist, contact like anybody but your friends and family, okay? Or I would rather somebody talk to a complete stranger about their marriage than somebody they actually know, because that stranger ain't gonna come to the barbecue like, I heard you didn't come home last night, and so the stranger ain't gonna do that. That way you get to vent, you get to tell it all, and then leave that stuff with that stranger. So let me know down below what points that really hit home with you about this. Let me know what you learned from your parents' marriage, and then also let this be a lesson that you can learn. You can get good marital tips from single people if we have a good head on our shoulders, and if we grew up watching a marriage. So I've never been married, but that's what I learned from watching a married couple for 32 years.